Thank you, Agnivesh. So I'll try to make it as a practical. As you have rightly said, as a surgeon, we have to operate twice. First in our mind and then on a patient. So preoperative planning, the goals are for the general goal to establish diagnosis, which is treatable by total knee replacement, avoid complication, optimize patient outcome, medical as well as functional. Technical goals are establish the relationship of anatomic and mechanical axis of femur and tibia, determine approach, appropriate bone cuts, alignment, depth, anticipate any bony deficiency, plan for any bone graft, augment or stem, determine whether what is the ligament status, whether this require release or require substitute, or to modify our surgical approach, and finally formulate our plan to achieve all this. What all is required is general screening, physical examination of knee, radiological assessment, and knowledge about instrument and implant, pre-operative patient counseling. So general screening, we do all these blood tests, and out of this, we should know the nutritional status of the patient. For that, hemoglobin up to 10, uh, 10 up to the level 10. Below 10, it is not acceptable. Albumin up to 3, and HbA1c 8.5 or lower. If these three parameters are good for wound healing, other which we routinely do is CRP. We should know what is the baseline C-reactive protein. Also, to rule out whether it is a osteoarthritis or inflammatory arthritis, we must do CRP, anti-CCP, and uric acid. Because many times we do, there is a mix of osteoarthritis and inflammatory arthritis. And after total knee replacement, if you do not give disease modifying drug, or then the pain is not relieved, they continues to experience pain, and those are very unhappy patients. So for especially also for rheumatoid arthritis, because it's a systemic disease, you must check the cervical spine. Also, because sometimes there's a if they require general anesthesia, then you must see whether there should not be any subluxation of C1, C2. Also, when you are doing bilateral simultaneous TKR, you have to be very careful. And in those cases, you must do dobutamine stress echo. Also, I tell everyone to you should overall see the ruled out any source of infection in the body. Also, see the dental checkup. Patient should not have caries. Examine as a whole spine, hip, ankle, foot. If hip is also involved, then hip should be operated first. Correct foot deformity, they are gross, varus, valgus, or equinus deformity, especially in rheumatoid arthritis, than before going for total knee arthroplasty. For total knee arthroplasty, the movement of hip is important because it, if you do not have hip movement up to 70, 80 degree or 90 degree, then it's very difficult to perform TKR. That's why hip movements, free hip movement is recommended. Always check distal circulation. They should be palpable, posterior tibial and tibialis anterior. Mark it. If any doubt, always do Doppler, especially in rheumatoid arthritis where there is a peripheral vascular disease. So if Doppler is doubtful, then take opinion, do CT angio if required. In such cases, also do avoid using tourniquet. General screening, you must know about body mass index. Obese patient, they are difficult patient. If BMI more than 30 degree, in those cases, we expect a difficult exposure. They require a longer incision. If patient is very short, especially less than 5 feet, then those patients they require smaller implant, and sometimes the smaller, especially the tibial implant and the patellar implant. So if you do not know about it, then in OR you may not get appropriate size of patella or tibia. Sometimes patient is very tall, then they require a bigger femur, and those femur routinely the implant manufacturer he never sends with the set. all the maximum size which is rarely used. So the rarely used are the smallest size and the largest size. Those two normally they are less in use, so they are less supplied by the vendor. So be careful about it. In physical examination is very important for the patient satisfaction. You should know what is the nature of pain. The pain should be reproducible. It should be consistent with the disease. Rule out any radiculopathy, any claudication, neurological claudication. Take spine surgeon's opinion if doubt. Do MRI if required. Ruled out peripheral neuropathy. If patient is diabetic, ruled out all the neurological causes. Also see the soft tissue status, that whether uh, which I'll discuss in the whether you require a release or some stabilization is needed. And based on the skin condition, we sometimes modify our skin incision. Gait is very important because unless until patient is not walking, it's very difficult to appreciate, especially the patient, okay, especially the recurvatum. Patient who has recurvatum, you can only appreciate when they walk. And then we have to plan for any recurvatum knee. We have to plan very. I'll tell you in next few slides specifically for that. Also the neurological. Sometimes patient, if they are Parkinson patient, that also you can make out. Also tell them to stand on your toes and heels. That will tell you about their plantar flexion and dorsiflexion, the power. Now, skin over knee is very important to see any old incisions are there, where the skin is fragile, atrophy, any fungal infection is there. You should always, if patient is previously operated, then ruled out always RSD or CRPS. Then in those cases, there's a discoloration, there could be hypersensitivity or atrophy of the skin or out of proportion patient has symptoms. For example, this is a operated uh, so all previous incision we have to carefully plan because uh, skin over the knee is very mobile. In flexion extension, almost 40% stretching of the skin happens. So we have to carefully plan. The skin is and the prosthesis is just under the skin. So this is a, for example, laterally operated previous healed scar, mature scar. The another scar which we are supposed to take should have 7 to 8 centimeter skin bridge in between. There is another case where this is STO operated. There is a transverse incision for STO. In this case, we could take a right angle perpendicular incision. This never gives any problem. The problem is whether there is puckered scar due to old infection, and these scars they are really problematic. And in such scars, we should always take plastic surgeon's opinion. Also in physical examination, we should see the soft tissue status, the whether the deformity is correctable, because correctable deformity requires minimal release. And those who are fixed deformity, angular deformity, they require more release. So whether deformity is correctable or not correctable, we should see in examination. Which flexion contracture is very problematic, and final check should be done under anesthesia because some in rheumatoid arthritis due to after anesthesia relaxation the fixed flexion contracture reduces, and in those cases we have to plan about posterior stripping, removing posterior osteophytes, also sometimes require more distal femoral cut. Now, if a knee hyperextension in examination, so if it is less than 10 degree, then we can manage with a regular TKR or in some case cruciate retaining TKR by taking a minus distal femur cut. But if the hyperextension is more than 10 degree, then the our cruciate retaining or PS or semi-constrained knee, they do not work in such knees because and these knees were more than 10 degree of hyper extension, we should always have in backup rotating hinge prosthesis. Nothing works than rotating hinge. Even if you do the semi-constrained, the posterior laxity occur later on. If patient is post patelectomy, those they always require posterior stabilized fixed bearing knees. Now, this is very important. You must know many patients also ask how much movement they get after TKR. See, whatever movement they have before, they get same. because the quadriceps get contracture over a period of time and the stretching is very difficult. So whatever the gold standard, the rule is, uh, whatever preoperative in the flexion, they get 10 degree or so after that. Now, if the flexion is less than 90 degree, now in such cases that exposure is difficult and you should anticipate and expect that. Always keep in mind in where the movement is less, we should not increase the patellar thickness if resurfacing is doing, and we should never oversize femoral component. Now, whether these patient you should use a high flexion TK or not, first of all, you should know the range of motion. If range of motion is less than 120 degree, and then high flexion TKR, which is aimed to get 140 or around knee flexion, should not be used because it takes away a lot of posterior bone. Also, patient, those are obese patient, if they cannot, their thigh and calf index is less than 90 degree, they are not suitable. If any deformity, a fixed flexion deformity, varus or valgus, it is more than 20 degree, then high flexion is difficult to use. Now, radiological goal uh, of planning is to know the current alignment and to have level and orientation of bony cuts, rough sizing of the component, and anticipate any bony deficiencies. Now, for the radiological assessment, we should always use long leg film or scanogram. I'll tell you, it gives a lot of information. Do a both knee standing X-ray, lateral knee, lateral X-ray in 30-degree flexion, and a good merchant view. Accurate limb alignment is most important factor for long-term outcome of TKR or total knee arthroplasty. There are numerous in literature reports which link the malaligned TKR to increase the polywear, poor outcome, and failure. Now, mechanical alignment is the first described by John Insall in 1985, and a straight knee passing through the center of the femoral head, center of the knee and ankle joint is the mechanical axis, and which is achieved by total knee arthroplasty by a perpendicular cut of femur and tibia, which are perpendicular to the mechanical axis of femur and tibia, which allowed the balanced distribution of joint loading or both medial and lateral compartment, both side interface and soft tissue. So if the knee is aligned, the femur, center of the knee, and center of the ankle, they are in one line, then the after total knee arthroplasty, the load sharing between medial and lateral femoral condyle and tibial surface is equal. And same the force they are transmitted to the bone or bone surface. So in those cases, because of equal distribution of forces, loosening does not happen. Now the acceptable alignment is anything between plus and minus 3 degree to the neutral alignment. More than 3 degree, they call it outlier. In conventional total knee arthroplasty, tibia, we use the extramedullary jig for the tibial cut, which is perpendicular to the mechanical axis of tibia, and intramedullary jig for the femur. Now, as we are using extramedullary tibial jig, it is not affected by the curvature of the tibia because the jig is applied over the surface. Okay, and we can have a good predictable tibial cut. But the problem is with the intramedullary femoral jig, because femur has two axes. One is the intramedullary, which is the anatomic axis, and the mechanical axis, which is in the line of femoral head. So normally we take 7 fixed angle 5 to 6 degree and we add on to the anatomical axis, and there's the mechanical axis in all the system what we are using. But the problem is due to the variation of this femoral anatomic mechanical axis is due to the variation of the neck shaft angle or variation in the femoral shape, that is bowing, varus bowing or valgus bowing. If the neck shaft angle from 130 degree, it is in a coxa valga, it increases like 140, or if it reduces less than 120, then your anatomical mechanical axis or a pharma angle of the distal femoral cut changes. Also, if If it is straight femur or bowing varus valgus, that also changes the fama angle. So conventionally, we take a fixed angle fama angle, like which we were taught like 5 degree in female or 6 degree in male. But what we have realized when we do regular scanogram long length film, this angle it is quite variable in our population. So long leg film, they are important. The importance is because of femoral anatomical mechanical axis or fama in getting correct alignment. Short films, they are short sighted. Long films give you much more idea. So always try to do long leg films. Now, when you do a long leg films and you calculate the angle, the rotation is very important. If you see the right side, the femur is internally rotated. So the patella is here round, and the trochlear surface, if you see the triangular, it is triangle. So round on triangle means it is a wrong rotation of the lower limb, and it will never give you a good angle measurement of fama angle. Now if you see here, there is a correct angle. Patella, see exactly center. When patella is in the center, the trochlear surface is looks like a dome. So patella central over a dome. If you see this picture, it means your alignment is perfect. You can very well calculate the fama angle. And for example, this is a mal rotation. Here the angle is calculated. Uh, Natural angle is 5 degree, but in the mal rotation it's become 3.7 degree. So rotation is very important when you measure this fama angle, which is which determine our about the distal femoral cut. Now, weight-bearing X-ray and not weight-bearing X-ray, they are better for justification to know the preoperative varus or valgus, and non-weight-bearing X-ray, they will tell us about they give you better idea about bone loss or how much the deformity is correctable. Now, in AP view, you must always do the KL classification or Caligran-Lawrence classification of osteoarthritis, which is defined as 0 is normal, and then grade 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the 3 and 4, they are, or 4, 3 and 4, they are mostly recommended, or I would say 4 for the TKR. If TKR is done in early osteoarthritis, yeah, KL2 or 3, then their result or dissatisfaction is very high. The outcome of the KL4 is very good. And also it is, so when there is a bone on bone, Callaghan grading system 4, there is a severe osteoarthritis, the outcome is more. If you do an early osteoarthritis, then maybe the reason is something else. The patient maybe have inflammatory arthritis, which somebody has missed, or some other cause of pain, so they will not get good relief by total knee replacement. So justify TKR by grading early stage, delay or try all other remedies, and for late it is recommended. Also in AP view, we can measure about the joint line. Joint line is measured from the tip of the fibula and to the upper tibial surface. Exact measurement of the bone thickness is not possible because whatever bone cuts we take intraoperative, they are inclusive of cartilage. And when we measure on the X-rays, we can measure about the angular, how much there'll be medial or lateral cut, medial will be less, lateral be, but the exact amount is difficult because the cartilage thickness is not included in this. But it will give you good idea in APU about the orientation of the cut. Also in APView, you should always look for the osteophyte because these osteophytes, they are under the, for example, here they are under the medial collateral, which give it a tenting effect or tightening of the medial collateral. All these osteophyte must be removed before we go for soft tissue release. First the osteophyte release, and then we go for soft tissue release. Also in APView, will give you some idea about the entry point of the our distal femoral jig where it should be made. It should be aligned with the axis of the femoral canal. In APView also gives her about it gives some idea about the bone loss and also the proximal tibial configuration. Especially if you see here post STO, the orientation is reversed. Now for the lateral view you should always look for anterior trochlear surface, posterior femoral condyle, if there is any loss, there are any osteophytes. Also, you should see the tibial slope, whether the natural tibia has more slope or less. Tibial slope varies 3 degree to 10 degree. In lateral view, we can also calculate posterior condyle offset ratio, and which is very important because this ratio, posterior condyle offset ratio, we have to preserve for the better flexion stability and better range of movement. In also lateral view, we can see about the all the loose bodies, osteophytes, about the tibial tubercle position, patella position, about insal salivatory ratio, whether the patella alta or patella baja. When there is a patella baja, then the exposure is difficult, especially if the knee flexion is less than 90 degree or around 90 degree. In these cases, the chances of patellar tendon avulsions are more, so they require a extensile approach, and we have to be very careful in such cases. Lateral view, if you have good X-ray, you can see the popliteal artery calcification, and in such cases, be careful about using tourniquet because the plaque can dislodge. And many surgeons they recommend if the calcification is seen and the and Doppler the plaques is more, and then probably we should avoid using tourniquet. Next is merchant view, which is very rare and very difficult to do it, and I always struggle. And if it is correctly done, it gives you a lot of information. Especially, you can classify patellofemoral osteoarthritis. This is the only way by this merchant view, whether the patellofemoral osteoarthritis, the Ivano classification, stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because in stage 1 and 2, if you are doing TKR, you can leave the patella because and if you are doing 3 and 4, then patella replacement is required. And especially 4, sometime they have tendency of lateral release, lateral subluxation, and they require release. In merchant view, you can also see about patellar tilt, subluxation, dislocation, about the angle. That is also pre-operative and post-operative. Eh, you can compare, and also you can see, you can also see whether the patella is type 1, 2, or 3, Weber class type of patella. Type 1 is seen about 30%, where both medial and lateral facet they are same. Type 2, the lateral facet is more, and this is almost 70% cases. This is the and lateral facet, and medial facet is small. Type 3 Viborg is where there is a hardly any medial facet, and the angle is obtuse, you know. And these type 3, they are the various studies. They are more prone for lateral subluxation because they are tight laterally, their tissue is tight laterally, and such Viborg type 3, they require more lateral release. There are a couple of studies, Viborg type 3 patella. So you get a lot of information if you have a good merchant view. Also, in a good merchant view, you can see the patellar thickness. If patella is very thin, then probably you have to arrange a thinner implant, or you can choose to not to resurface. That also you can see on merchant view. If you have magnification, X-ray magnified, you can do templating. This is also good in a small patient or extra large patient where you may require uh, rarely used prosthesis. Now, you should always identify difficult knee when you are doing TKR. Difficult knee, like for surgical approach, especially if there is a more than 20 degree of fixed varus or valgus deformity, more than 20 degree or around 20 fixed flexion deformity. Flexion is less, say around less than 70 degree. Previous surgeries post STO because a lot of scarring, post patelectomy, or any intraarticular fracture. These are the difficult knees, which, and then we have to anticipate certain problems and their solution. Also, identify when there is a gross instability, bone loss, or a neuropathic joint. And in those cases, probably we have to arrange constraint prosthesis, we have to arrange graft, wedges, stems as per the deformity. For example, this is a grossly varus knee, and when we did a scanogram, we found there is a medial tibial defect, and we anticipate, and then accordingly we arrange a tibial stem and medial tibial bone grafting to get a good alignment. And see how she is walking before and how she is walking with a straight knee. This is only possible if you plan meticulously how much distal femoral angle cut will be there, how you can solve the medial tibial defect by bone grafting, putting a screw. And next is valgus. You know, valgus deformity, they are rare, they are less, but they are more difficult to correct. In that, you require lateral, the lateral side is contracted, medial there is laxity. In those cases, you have to do lateral leads and balance the knee properly. Otherwise, the lateral, this valgus deformity is very, they are very prone for recur that, and TKR can fail. Next is the fixed flexion contracture. FFD is very difficult to correct, especially if the patient is obese. For example, she is 100 kg and fixed flexion deformity more than 20 degree. These patients are technically very difficult, and in these cases, you have to probably arrange all kind of processes, and you have to do one by one, because such cases doing simultaneous bilateral is difficult. Okay, now next is hyperextension deformity. As I told you, you can only appreciate that when you tell patient to walk, and if you see there, the right side is going back, and these are very difficult to correct and cannot be managed by regular prosthesis. This is one of the another case with severe hyperextension of the knee. Knee is almost dislocating in extension, and they require rotating hinge. We cannot These cannot be managed by regular knee prosthesis. If we manage anyhow the hyperextension by regular, there in couple of years the laxity reoccur and the chances of failure are very high. So hyperextension knee, you have to be very careful. This is after pre and post. Now next is stiff knee. Stiff knee is again challenge. If you say X-ray like this, AP in lateral view, and patient is hardly able to bend, say around just 30 degree. So these are very challenging. In those cases, you must know how to do the extensile approach, like about quadriceps snip, and also we have to be prepared for if any eventuality, like if required tibal colostomy. Most of the time, quadriceps snip is sufficient, but this in these cases you have to plan careful. This is a post of X-ray, alignment is good. All the osteophyte have been removed, and she got little better movement than what she had. And but physio, she may get little bit more. But these patients are difficult patients or difficult TKR. Now, instrument and implant, please check yourself all component size, component matching. There are chances when there's a mismatching happened because we entirely depend on company person. We should go as per the recommendation by the company, like what femoral component can mismatch with tibia or about the insert. Uh, so this is if you it is a gross mismatch, then there will be polywear and that TKR will fail eventually. Femoral component anteroposterior dimensions that you must aware with the chart. Every company had different dimension. They cannot copy each other because of the patent. So every company has different femoral AP dimension, anteroposterior and mediolateral dimension. So you must be aware about the dimension and the ratio. If the component is, some companies are too broad, then the overhanging happens quite commonly. So whether they have a narrow implant available, that also you must know. The femoral, the female femur, they are narrow mediolaterally, and AP they are big. Male, they are broader female, you know, and their AP dimension is less and mediolateral is more. So that also you must be aware. Also, while using the tibial slope, go as per the company, because some implants they have inbuilt tibial slope. So go as per the recommendation by the company. Now bone cement, you should know about the bone cement setting time. You should have extra pack of cement, because sometime if it's a new center, cement is not properly kept, it may set early. Sometime if something, it can something fall down accidentally, you should have extra pack of cement. Now this is important about the saw blade, you know, these are the different companies saw blades, and all their dimension, the standard dimension, the thickness of the blade is 1.27 millimeter. Esculap, Stryker, Zimmer, or Synthes. So the standard saw blade is the thickness is, the recommended is 1.27 millimeter, or TKR jig, irrespective of company. This thickness blade is accommodated best. If your blade is very thin, then your cut will be either up or down. It will not be accurate. If it is thick, then it will be, again, there is a lot of friction between jig and saw blade. So you should have a appropriate blade, and blade should be sharp. If blade is very thin, very blunt, then again, while cutting from the jig, you can change your orientation, change about your bone cut. If bone is very hard, then you may cut slightly less. It will change your final cut of your bone, tibia as well as femur. So saw blade, it should be appropriate size and sharp. Also operate with general ortho backup. There many times you could have a medial condyle epicondyle avulsion, which may require 6.5 cc screw with washer. You should always have back of that cc screw. You should always have back of a couple of K wires, and you should also keep anchor locally available. If you don't have the locally available anchor suture washer, that backup is always required. Explain well to your assistant and OT staff about it. Now also do the pre-operative patient counseling. Tell about your patient about post-operative course, about the physiotherapy, limitation after surgery, and about the complication, as nothing is 100%. Try to increase patient awareness, and pre-op patient counseling is very helpful, because if patient expectation is uh, is uh, is more, and which we cannot offer, then these patients are NFP patients. Although your TKR will be perfect radiologically, but still they are not happy. So this patient expectation, limitation, it should be clear, made clear to the patient. You should not forget about the contraindication of the TKR. It should, in a stable painless arthrodesis, is not advisable. Active sepsis is not advisable. If the quadriceps is weak or not functional, then TKR is contraindicated. Meticulous preoperative planning is always to avoid surprises in operation theater, to save time and energy, to reduce complication rate. I will end with this quote: meticulous planning will enable everything a man does to appear spontaneous. So there is nothing spontaneous in life, everything is meticulously planned. Thank you.